What's up, CTV? Hey, coming at you from our houses right now. Thought that this might be a fun addition and end cap to this talk on maturity that we've been going through all of September. I've got a couple faces that you should recognize with Bobby and Ellie Hopper, and I've got a new face that you will hopefully soon more so recognize with Ellie Bunye. So I just want to, first off, I just want to thank you guys for being on. So I think I want to start with kind of the preparing the future you, and right now I think Bobby is doing some pretty amazing things. First, Bob, if you don't mind just saying how old you are, and kind of what you do for your job, and kind of the decisions and the things that you're going to be going into, and just kind of how you see your life in the future.
Sweet. Well, my name is Bobby. I'm sure I've gotten the privilege to meet a lot of you guys, hang out with y'all over the past year now. I've been able to hang out with you guys weekly. A few months ago, we started doing that more in a TV environment, but it's been awesome always getting to hang out with you guys. But I am 18 years old. So not that much older than any of you guys. When I was your age, I thought 18 was really, really old. And now that I'm here, it's not really old. So trust me on that one. But a little bit about me, I've been working inside of a church for 7 years. No, that's not right. 6 years now. Pretty much that means like every single day I would be at church working, just doing everything from cleaning trash off of the floor to putting down chairs to really whatever I could do. And now that as I've gotten older, like I said, last year, I got put in a position where I was leading CTV. This was like my one just thing that I was just constantly pouring into and investing in. And it's awesome to be a part of. But more recently, I got moved over to some of the big, crazy, cool things that our church does through videos and through music and through super cool lights and sound and all that fun stuff. But right now I am 18. I'm doing stuff like this, hanging out with all my CKids friends, hanging out with some of my FE students, our middle and high schoolers. And then I'm working for the church on top of all of that, with what we call production, which is all of the sound and lights and cool things like that. And then I'm also a full-time college student that I just started doing that about a month ago. So we're excited about all of that. But long-term, I'm going to college, not so much because I love school. Don't really love school that much at all. So some of you guys might relate with me there. I told myself when I graduated, I would never go back. And here we are. But something that I want to do with my life as I get older and as I grow in knowledge and wisdom is I want to lead kids and lead you guys just like I'm doing now, but I want to be even better at it, which is why I'm going to school.
So tell me, with that decision, first off, as an 18-year-old and some of the production stuff, just to paint a picture for what production looks like. When we were in the building, you go into FE, you go into the pit, and you see the band and all that stuff and the lights. Well, imagine that on a scale that involves our adult service, right? Pastor Charlie is in charge of the church, and then not too far under that is where an 18-year-old in Bobby sits. He is responsible for quite a lot. And I don't think that's a small feat by any means. There's a lot that goes into not just things that he has to do, but the things that he had to do to prepare himself for that, right? And so can you, Bobby, kind of talk about the decisions that you made when you were younger, 5-6 years ago, that kind of put you on the path to essentially where you're at now?
Yes, sir. Well, I would say one thing that I'm really passionate about, I sort of got into this a little bit earlier, but Just what excites me is kids and young people that are learning about the Bible and learning about Jesus and learning about their faith. And the reason I think that hits so far home for me, and it hits close to home for me, is because when I was in 4th and 5th grade, that was the time when I really started to have my own faith. When I was around 10 years old is when I really started to realize church isn't just something that I go to, church is something I'm a part of. Right now I'm where I'm at because when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, however old I was constantly just in church, surrounded by great people, constantly trying to get better and getting better eventually with time and effort. But yes, I'm 18 and I'm in charge of a lot. But I was also 14 and in charge of a lot. And I was also 12 and in charge of a lot. And something that I love is anyone watching this video, if you're 9, 10, 11, however old you are, there's a lot that you can be doing. Yeah, that's how I got where I'm at, Brian.
It right then. No, that's good. I mean, the way you said that you were in charge, even if you weren't in charge of people or had heavy responsibilities, you had a responsibility to yourself in growing on a schooling level, on a technical level. You do quite a bit when it comes to videos and all kinds of stuff. I think we can kind of shift it for a second and go to Ellie Hopper. But Ellie, if you don't mind kind of sharing a little bit about who you are. It's not polite to ask a lady her age, but I will ask you guys just because I think it's really, really important to see just how young you guys are, and all the cool things that you're kind of involved in doing. So,
hey guys. So I'm 21, and kind of like Bobby, I thought when I was your guys' age that 21 was so old and I was going to have probably a house, probably a husband, and probably kids by now. But now that I'm here, I still feel very young, so don't grow up too fast. Yeah, but I started going to community when I was 17. I grew up in church. My mom actually does sound and techie stuff at the church that I grew up in. I joined the worship team there, was through her kind of pushing me to do that, which is funny because at the time, I really, really, really didn't want to do it, and I really didn't like doing it. And sometimes I would make the excuse up that I was sick so I wouldn't have to come to rehearsals, but my mom got the last laugh because now at community, what I do is I play keys. Some of you might have seen me. And so I also get to music direct and interact with the band a lot and help just around worship and production. And that's my absolute favorite thing to do. So it's kind of funny how that happened. But so I was at that church for a few years, probably 5 to 7. And I started visiting community when I was 17. I felt like the Lord was kind of calling me there. I met Mike Dackness, who a lot of you probably know too. He's just the best. And I ended up just feeling a pull there, which was kind of difficult for me because I was so involved in my family's church, the church that I'd grown up at. So it was kind of a tough thing where I had this passion and I felt like God was calling me to something that might be my next step in life as far as churches. And then I had what I'd always known and where I'd grown up at. And I was just kind of sitting like in the tension between the two and kind of confused and praying like where I was supposed to go, if I was supposed to stay, or if I was supposed to do something new that was maybe uncomfortable and scary. The church that I grew up at, I kind of felt like my faith was handed to me because it was where I grew up and it was where my parents, my whole family still goes there. I felt like my faith was my family's at that point, and it wasn't really my own. And I knew what I believed, but I had no idea why I believed it. Somewhere in that tension, I found my why for what I believed. And I think that was really important for me. And I think a question I would say is important for you guys to answer too is like why do I believe what I believe, and why? Like what is it that makes me love this place even,
good.
because those
That's
are
good,
things
Ellie.
that I ask myself. And it was interesting because I never disliked my old church. I just, somewhere in the tension of growing and maturing and seeing like what God had for me, somewhere else helped me to find my why, and it helped me to find like my identity, like as a Christian, and through that, my purpose, and also just like who I am as a person. So I guess there's a lot of things there.
Yeah, no, I kind of want to unpack some of that, if that's okay. Um, I love that you said it was your family's faith, right? So it wasn't quite yours, and now it's a very, special thing that you were able to get a sense from the Lord. And it's not about moving churches per se, right? But a lot of times it's about taking that hidden step. It's about taking that step of faith in some cases, or you had the ability to recognize that it was your family's faith. And actually, we talked about this last week in owning your faith, right? Owning what it means to be a believer now, right? At a younger age, they say, the more you can create habits at an early age, the harder they are to break. That's with good habits or bad habits, right? The earlier you create habits, and the earlier you can start thinking and really owning these decisions that you make, the more they're going to be your reality going forward. So can you kind of elaborate just a little bit more in what it meant to, for you to know and feel like you had to own this faith that you had grown up essentially with?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, so before I found community, I remember having, or even knowing what community was, I remember being at my church and having thoughts like, why am I here and why do I believe this? And kind of having a feeling of like, maybe I should go do something else, meaning not church, like maybe I should just like go find like who I was somewhere else in the world. And so there was a lot of conflicting thoughts like those for me. And I was probably, around 16 when I started feeling like that and kind of feeling in a bubble that maybe I put myself in. So I think somewhere around those thoughts, I don't know. High school was kind of a rough time for me. I was in a lot of difficult relationships, and family stuff was difficult. Just relationships with my parents and also siblings, just lots of arguments. So life was kind of difficult, and I think that kind of pressed on me to find these answers. It's interesting when life gets difficult or when hard things happen, how that presses you to like search for answers for things, or get resolutions. So I think through those things, I started making new friends outside of church and also from new churches. And just, people at work or just around that I met through different high school events. And it's funny because I found community, and in my head, I was thinking like, all this conflict is going on, like I'm just gonna leave church and go like do something else that might be fun, and God like leads me to another church. So it wasn't about church, it was really, I saw it as God kind of like hand leading me back to him, and that was just his way of like I guess waking me up, because he knew that like where I had been was just so familiar, and I think my heart was so hard to listen to anything. So it wasn't
That's good.
necessarily the church. It was probably my own stubbornness and pride, but I think God just knew like what I needed to wake me up, and it just, that happened to be like another church. But I know that he can do that through communities, through your small groups, through people that you interact with, like Brian or Bobby, or Ellie, or even hard situations. Like a lot of the difficult times in my life are the times when I felt like the Lord the most close, even if they were the times where I wanted to run away the most.
No, that's good. That's a good way to put it. And You know, that's one thing, especially in this COVID season, where there's not only just a change in how schooling works or education in general, or for me, like, this is my office, right? This is my house, but it's also where I have to work right now. And now the reality is not everybody has even that luxury of having a job, or this has been a difficult time in a lot of people's lives. It's scary in some cases, right? I know that as if I were your guys' age, you know, I don't know how I would be able to handle this stuff. You almost have to grow up faster in times like these, and I think that's a perfect segue into this next young lady, Ellie Bunye, and just kind of again, same thing, if you don't mind, just who you are, how old you are, and essentially what you're doing. And I think you've got a pretty cool story that can really resonate with a lot of people. But if you don't mind just sharing what you're willing to share, and then we're going to kind of change the tone a little bit. But first, I want everybody to hear from Ellie.
Cool. Yeah. My name's Ellie Bunye. I'm 14, and let's see. Not a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was kind of encouraged to take next steps. I had friends that were serving, and they were like, "Oh, you should come serve with us." And I was like, "Oh, I have to take next steps." So I kind of took next steps, and you guys all know Mike Dackness. Mike was like, "Oh, you are so good with kids. You should find something that is calling you in the kids program." And then I asked a few more people, and they were like, "Yeah, I think you should go with the babies." So I went to nursery for a while, and yeah, I was in there for a while. It's not it's great, but you're watching babies. There's not a whole lot to it. And then I kind of got to know more people at the church, and Caitlin got sick one day in KGB, and she was like, "We need somebody to come fill our spot and worship." So I came in, and I had like 30 minutes to learn like 4 dances. And so I went in pretty early, and I kind of grew to love it. I enjoyed watching everybody's smiling faces and dancing around and jumping around. And yeah, that was kind of how I got more involved. And then I found out where my skills could go and started taking on a few more projects over the whole pandemic quarantine thing. And I kind of took the quarantine as not a step back, but to think about, you know, I was going to service, but I was kind of jumping in right after worship and then listening to the message and then jumping out to help people clean up. And so I kind of took a step back to watch all the online services, and there wasn't as much stuff to do. So then when I came back, I was kind of able to find God a little bit more and understand His Word a little bit better. There's a few people in my family, extended family, who felt the same way and kind of took the quarantine as like, I'm going to take a few weeks off and figure out what God's name means to me. And so that's how I looked at COVID as kind of a opportunity to read some messages, listen, and yeah. So I think
So
it was a good.
So your you're 14 right now, and so 2 years ago you got involved in helping the kids out. What were you doing before you got involved, as far as just kind of as a 12-year-old, you were just running around the church causing mayhem? Were you even in church? What was your life like prior to getting involved?
Regularly attending Sunday services, and then Nico and some friends and people were like, you should come to FE. And so I came to FE, and some of the messages really hit me, and a lot of there was one like all-nighter that I went to, which was where I fully opened my heart out and started getting to know more of the leaders and youth pastors and people at the church. And then I started regularly attending. And my mom had a baby, so it was kind of harder because she obviously for a little while didn't want to come to church all the time because it's hard when you have 4 kids and a baby. So she was home. So then I got to know more people by asking people to help me get to church, and went to lunch with people, and yeah. So I am the oldest. I have 3 younger siblings. My parents are divorced. So being with my 11-year-old brother who has a disability, I kind of had to figure out how I could personally adapt. He was born with a disability. He's deaf. So I had to figure out how I can look at him when I'm talking, how I cannot get all mad if he asks me to say something 5 times. And so that's definitely something. And then I want to say that so my other 2 siblings are my half siblings. And so for a while it was just kind of us 4 and my mom. And so it was kind of, I was the oldest. I wanted to, but babysit and do, help out a little bit more. And it opened my eyes to how much I love being around kids. And yeah, I want to say my siblings are a big part of why I am the way that I am.
So you had to grow up really fast. Yeah,
I don't want to look at it as like I had to. It was a negative thing. I obviously could have been like, nope, I'm not watching them. Go find somebody. I personally hated it when my mom was like, I have a babysitter coming. I was like, no, you don't. So I just, because it was kind of like a thing where the babysitter would come and be like, so like, what do you guys like for dinner? I'm like, they like chicken nuggets. It has to be the diner ones. Like, just, I can do it. Let me put them in the microwave.
How old were you when you started declaring that?
Let's see. My 11-year-old brother and I, 3 years apart. The 2 youngest are just turned 3 a few days ago and 6. So I want to say after my brother was born, or maybe even a little bit before my second brother was born, I was kind of like, can handle it. I grew up with him. Just so my mom and dad got divorced 3 years after my brother was born, something like that.
So you were, if I'm doing my math right, you were 9.
Yeah, something like that.
So at 9 years old, and I love that you say you didn't have to. I mean, you.
Yeah, I mean, being there when people like my siblings are being told. I don't know. It's just a weird thing, and it was a personal.
You're protecting them. I mean, that's what it is. But you at 9 years old, having the maturity to take on that role. And the fact that it was that you say, it wasn't that you had to, you essentially got to. It was a badge of honor, if you will, that you would be able to take that on and prefer to have that prefer that you were the one looking out for your siblings than somebody else.
Yeah, my parents did a very good job of making me, I want to say, aware of things. My dad is a business owner, and so he owned a gym. We kind of grew up being there in the beginning almost 24/7, and so he would show me how to work the front desk, or when people wanted to buy a water bottle, how to use the credit card machine. So that kind of it was nice being responsible for something, and I like being responsible for things. I don't like feeling lazy and not having a reason to get up or just so. I think that's a part of it. I'm very active, and I like having something to do.
No, and that's I think that kind of takes it back to what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, I believe, in not sugarcoating. In certain cases, your parents or your dad had this ability to just kind of bring you into a certain type of reality, right? He didn't sugarcoat it, and this is where we're at. Your brother can't hear, and these are things that you're going to have to now do to interact with him, right? Like, you can't not interact with your brother, and so here is our new reality. Or when your parents divorced, there was a new reality. There's a new dynamic in how you interact with that. In the same way, Ellie Hopper, I know there were family struggles. There were things that kind of were going on in your life, and things that you're still interacting with and having to what's the word? Having to in a sense cope with, I guess. And I think that those are parts of life where the Lord, like you were saying, directs kind of a step in such a way that he brought you back to church when you were trying to leave church. You're looking at situations that just seem like things are falling apart more than anything, right? And so you're kind of like, well, I just don't want to do this church thing. Like, that's for my parents. That's for that family. That's not for me. And the Lord was able to use these little experiences and put you in a position where you're leading a band, musicians, Ellie Hopper, that you didn't want to be a musician. Right. And now these decisions that you're sitting back, that faith is for my family, for somebody else. Church is not the thing for me. Music's not the thing for me. They say that the Lord has a sense of humor, right? And so here you are in a church and leading professional musicians. And so I just think, I kind of want to change tones just a little bit. You gotta sense to kind of hear from each person and kind of know who they are. And I think this time during COVID, we have this ability, or we've had these few months to really hit the reset button on the decisions we make as people for our future self. Right? All of this is, who are you going to be a week from today? Who are you going to be 2 weeks from today? 3, 4, who are you going to be 5 years from now? Because like what Bobby said before, the reality is he was thinking that an 18-year-old was old, right? I mean, that time comes and goes so fast, and all of a sudden you're applying for colleges. All of a sudden you're looking for internships. All of a sudden you're setting up a career and potentially marriage and a family. It's unbelievable how fast life actually moves. And I hope that you hear this. I hope that anything that's being said, you actually hear it. And maybe it's something that you can recall in the future. But we're all here because we care about the future you. Who you are in 5 years means something. And so what are some practical things, let's say in this time, all right? Some of you guys are actually, all 3 of you guys are taking classes or in school in some way. I'm doing certifications. It's a little bit different, but all in all, what are some practical things that CTV can take away from this time, right? A lot of them are doing schooling online. A lot of them have video games. I've got a whole slew of distractions behind me. What are some things that they could do in a practical sense to set themselves up to be better in 2, 3, 4 weeks, 2, 3, 4 years? If they start doing right now, it'll impact their life for the positive. Bobby, let's start with you.
I'll take it. One thing that I would say is just most important, and I will say this until the day I die, because this is what got me to where I'm at, is always staying committed. Whatever it is you want to do, if that's a sport, if that's playing an instrument, if that's whatever that might be for you, if that's school, sports, whatever that is, stay committed to it. If it gets rough, that's going to happen. Not if, when it gets rough, it's going to happen, and stay committed. When it's not rough and you're enjoying it, stay committed. When you're super busy, and you will get busy, especially as you get into your older years, stay committed, be faithful, and you will succeed. Things that you can start doing at this age right now, where you're at in 4th and 5th grade, stay in church. Don't just stay in church for your parents. Don't go to church for your parents. Go to church for yourself. Some of you guys, I know some of you guys, one of you got baptized a few weeks ago, and that was probably the craziest, most awesome thing I've ever seen. But you can make this faith your own. So don't just wake up on a Sunday morning when your mom tells you it's time to go to church. No, wake your parents up. Bring your parents to church. Be the person in your household that leads the charge to get to church. That's what I would say.
That's good. Ellie Hopper.
Sure. Yes, I have a couple of things. So I'm also in school. I don't know if I mentioned that. I know you guys are in school. All my school is online as well. I know that's difficult. I think something for me is that I tend to, I'll get frustrated or annoyed like in a day or in a moment, but in those moments it's hard for me to really think past what's going on, because my emotion is just like, I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated, like I don't want to do school anymore, I'm just going to drop out. But I think something that helps me is maybe writing down like some dreams or passions of mine, and then thinking like, how is what I'm doing right now helping me towards that? Because then it gives me like kind of an end goal or something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of working towards something, rather than feeling like the schoolwork I'm doing or the Zoom class that I'm in isn't really doing anything for me. Because you can't.
I want to cut you off for a second. So you're saying what you're doing right now, like you thought about those and the stuff that you're doing, when it gets frustrating or hard or difficult, you can look back and be like, no, like I'm doing this because I have a certain goal in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying? So, and we talked about that in week 1 of September, maturity, that creating SMART goals. I wanted to bring this up and had no idea how to fit it in, and you brought this in. This is too important. So SMART goals, right? I don't know if you remember. Does anybody remember what that stands for? Anyone? So it's an acronym, right? SMART. It's specific, right? So you're making your goal is specific. It's something that it's not just kind of this, oh, I want to be a good baseball player, right? No, like I want to be the best second baseman. I want to be the best pitcher, the best whatever it is. Like you say it's specific. I want to be the best base stealer, right? And so now you know what you have to work on to be that thing, right? It's measurable. So you have the ability to either put yourself up against something or someone. And that's not a negative, by the way. That's not, you're not putting yourself up against something to think less of yourself. You're using other obstacles or people as a measuring stick, essentially, for how you're improving, right? That's what grades do, by the way. They help you, maybe not perfectly, right? But they help you measure where you're at in a subject to know what you have to work on. It's actual, right? And so what that means is it's something that you can actually do. I think in some cases, I always heard my parents say, and they mean well, but like, you can do anything you put your mind to. No, but that's okay. Like, no, you can't, in a sense, right? There are just certain things that I have to know who I am, and I have to be real with myself to know that I'm going to find the thing that I am really good at and go for it. I was never going to become a mathematician, right? I'm awful at math, awful. And I knew from a very, very young age that I was terrible at math. And so it's just one of those things where, you know, there are certain individuals who are good. And it's not to say that you can't try something and realize that you're good at it. But you just have to be, you know, honest with yourself in certain cases. It's relevant, right? So it's something that is actual and relevant, and kind of what you, what works within your environment. And then there's a time, it's time bound, right? There's time to it where you don't just kind of let it, eventually I will be good at this thing. No, like you give yourself very specific timelines in how you're going to achieve something. I would highly suggest and urge, if you get a chance, go back and listen to episode 1 on maturity, and they, you know, how they kind of break it down. It's just, that is hugely important to set yourself up now for success. Sorry. Okay, Allie, keep going.
No, that was good. You mentioned having people that you look up to, and that was kind of the other thing that I was going to say is, like, there are role models in my life, and things that I see in people that maybe I want to be more like, or maybe they're doing something that I want to be doing one day, and so I'm going to like learn from them. And I guess an example of this could be just, you guys know that I play keys, and every time I'm playing keys with, there's so many talented musicians in our church, and I just feel like they make me better. Like when there's a musician on stage who I just know is so talented and knows this and this and this, where maybe has strengths in an area where I'm weaker, I feel like they make me stronger in those areas. So I would say, like, find someone who you look up to, or someone who does something that you do but better, and learn from them as well.
That's huge.
That's good.
Ellie Bunier, give us some.
Sure, yeah. I have a few things. One of the biggest things for me was finding and developing a routine that fit best with my normal routine outside of school. So I was already kind of, you know, the normal high school stress that you get, but then they go, oh, just kidding, we're not going back to school, you're doing it from your computer. And I was like, oh no, because it did not work for me in the spring. And the reason it didn't work for me in the spring, a big thing was I was doing it at my desk in my room. And when I'm at my desk in my room, there's nobody to help hold me accountable. And there's nobody to say, hey, don't you have a meeting right now? So I'd kind of be like, oh, my science meeting is in 2 minutes. It's fine. I can be 10 minutes late. Let me just finish this episode. And so this year, I started off working in the living room or in the dining room. And I mean, I have to be on my meetings. And, you know, everybody else is down there. So that was a thing. And even this year, I wake up at 6, and I don't start my first class until 9. So on Mondays, we don't have meetings, so I let myself sleep in a little bit. But the thing with distance learning is you have a time that all your Google Meets are at. And so that has helped me a lot. And knowing that even if I'm not doing as the best, even if I'm not getting the grades that everybody else is doing, I know that I'm doing the best that I can do. And I know that God sees that. And so that has definitely helped me, because grades are a big thing for me. Just being like, that was what I could do. That was the best I could do, but it wasn't an A. And that's always very stressful. So getting up at a certain time and being done at a certain time. So not letting myself work too hard and stress myself out and get so exhausted. That definitely helped me a lot.
So, and I like how you said starting at a certain time, but then ending at a certain time, and really focusing in on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Also developing a place that is my school space only.
Yeah.
So, and if I'm like, oh, I have, that breakfast in bed table that you have, I'm just gonna sit in my bed one day and do all my Google Meets. That doesn't work, because I'm like, this is the same place that I sleep in. This is the same place that I watch my TV in, and it doesn't work. So,
and I think there's something big to be said, because there's actually a lot of business brains that put their head together specifically within COVID to say, how does somebody as an employee benefit the most from where we're at? And I think a lot of us have the luxury right now that our bedroom does not also have to be the workout room, that does not also have to be the work room, the office, because it is very unhealthy to have everything in one spot.
Right.
And so for you to make the actual no, I'm going to separate all those pieces out so that they are, if I walk into a different room, that represents a break in my day. That's wildly important that you have those. But then you've got your front end, your back end, and then you actually use that time, that 30, 40, 50 minutes, whatever it is, 2 hours of just pure dedication and focus to what you're doing.
Right. I don't know how many 4th and 5th graders have phones. Well, I mean, maybe a lot of you do, but I appreciate, or I like to put my phone at a distance that I can't reach when I go to sleep. So, and I always set my alarm on turn off the snooze. That helps me, because I have to get up and I have to walk over and turn off my alarm.
Oh, it's a schedule. Yeah, that's those early habits. Yeah, that's big. I actually started doing that. I have an alarm that I've been trying to. I just want to wake up before 7 a.m. And make my bed. Those are the first 2 things that I have to do in the morning before I feel I can do anything else. And those are it's just a habit that, at the age that I'm at now, I'm really, I should have been doing this years ago, right? But to just wake up early and then just make your bed and then start your day.
Yeah, my dad was always very adamant about me making my bed. So that's like you said, the earlier you develop a habit. So the other thing is, I was talking about my brother, and I know I was talking to you about this, but he has had it pretty harsh with the distance learning, and so seeing that he is still able to be motivated to log on to every Google Meet, and with the hardships that he has, it's like, if he can do it, I can do it. So
good. Well, guys, I want to thank y'all for doing this. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate the knowledge that you have and the wisdom and in some cases the ability to just follow the Spirit, right? Follow God when He had a prompting. Thank you, CTV. I hope that this is beneficial. And by the way, all of us are accessible, right? We are, this is not a YouTube video or something that we just found. Like, this is, we are people. We care about you. We care about the future you. And so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll absolutely get them answered. But let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, just thank you so much for Lord, CTV and these kids, their future and their impact on your kingdom. Lord, I thank you for the decisions that they are going to be making right now that is going to set them up for success, for their future success. And so we thank you. We praise you for technology and the ability to have a conversation online, despite all the chaos that might be going on. You are absolutely in control. And we thank you and we praise you. It is in your name. Amen. Guys, we will catch you at small groups.